What is going on, guys?
It's Monday.
It's Monday.
It's Monday?
This is not the trading desk.
This is not the trading desk.
Special episode of the trading desk.
Surprise.
It is Monday. We're here. We're filling in for Tim. Tim had something that he had to do. So we're throwing together a quick show for you guys. I hope you like it. We broke out some of the good stuff. Armand and I are hanging out. We're going to watch Nerd a little bit. Brought some cool watches. We're going to talk about some underdogs.
Yeah. We love underdogs here in Philly.
Traditional fashion, let's roll into some wrist shots
All
first.
right, after you.
Oh, I'm going first?
Yep.
All right. So it escaped the box. It had been a long time. I was going to wear it last week, but Manjos talked me into wearing the Longue striking time instead, which honestly, I fell in love with it the longer and longer I wore it. But anyhow, this is the 114060 for those of you that are listening and not watching. Non-date ceramic Submariner. Mine's a 2014. Plenty of love on it. Plenty of stories, as we like to call them.
Total classic
But,
on my personal short list.
Totally love it. It's great. Every time I put it on, I wonder why I took it off, and then I see the Bulgari or I see the Explorer 2 that I have, and it's kind of like, maybe I should wear that. But yeah, this is one of those watches that when you put it on, you wear it for like a month before you realize that you didn't.
It's so easy to pick up and wear. I mean, it goes with everything.
So yeah, best buckle in the industry.
I agree.
On the sub.
Solid piece.
And Armin is wearing the
I have a somewhat newly acquired, vintage piece. This is a KO 2907 Seamaster chrono, kind of known for, or rather the 321 movement that's beating along underneath the dial here is kind of one of the most famous ones from Omega and in the industry in general. This is kind of a weird, rare reference that I saw it and I just couldn't let it go. And I have it on this really hip, young, not old man at all, Spidell style bracelet. I love it.
Look at that guy. It's a cool piece. It's a very Armand watch.
It is a very, very me watch. It's a little small. I think it measures in at 35 millimeters, but I mean, it looks good on the wrist, honestly. On a strap, it might wear a little small, but on this, like I said, hip and young bracelet.
Totally bringing the Spidells back. But the thing with that watch is like when Armand was thinking about buying it and walking around the office, everybody's kind of like, yeah, it's cool. He's like, it's got a 321 in it. It's like, all right, that makes it better. I mean, but it's cool. It's got some patina on the dial. It definitely.
Yeah, there's a few marks on it. It's a capped case, so it's a steel. It's basically a steel watch, just with a capping on it with a gold tone. A little bit better than gold plating, but still not gold.
Voting on the underdogs with your own dollars there. It's probably the exact opposite of this watch.
That's definitely the opposite of an underdog.
Yeah.
And, modern sports watch versus, I guess you would call this a vintage sports watch. So,
for those of you that are wondering, we are drinking a Scotch whiskey, Japanese today.
Japanese.
This is one
delicious.
of my desk bottles. But very good. We haven't created Taste of Vision yet, so take our word for it.
Not yet.
But anyways, so wrist shots. The general consensus of today's show is kind of, let's bring out some watches. Let's talk about, underdog pieces. Realistically, pieces that are going to be the same now as they will later. Bubble pops, doesn't matter. They're not affected, right? So we actually did this kind of without noticing. But we pulled we realized after the fact, pulled 3 under 10 and 3 over 10.
Yep.
Totally by accident, just happened to work out.
4. Sorry,
4.
I lost count too.
Oh, okay. But there we go. So,
it's funny. I think we were talking before we started. There's a couple pieces on here in particular that it's not so much that they're underdogs, but they might be lesser looked at in comparison to the rest of the line. First and foremost,
right.
Just starting off with 3 pieces in particular, actually. We have a Longus Saxomat, a De Bethune DB25, and an Apollo 8 ceramic Speedmaster. So, I mean, we can just dive into it if you want to start with the Speedmaster.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. All right, so this is kind of, I guess, one of the latest Speedmaster limited editions, a 44.25 millimeter ceramic case with a kind of really cool skeletonized dial, if we can get an eye on the dial here. You have this really nice moon-like texture. There we go. Yeah, we can kind of see a little bit of the texture there. kind of open worked into the chrono mechanism. You can have a look. And I really love the yellow accents. I'm a sucker for yellow in general, and I'm really bad at showing
Nice
watches.
contrast. I think for me personally, besides black and red, black and yellow is probably the next closest.
I agree.
That's the money shot on that watch. Is the
This is the 1869, is that? Yep,
Yeah,
caliber 1869. Black and base plates.
What's really cool is that they carried the moon texture, the lasered moon texture, onto the back plate and onto the bridges. You can see, it's kind of hard to see there, but it's like a granulated finish, which is on the dial a little bit more noticeable. But surface of the moon.
And this is kind of, to me, this is Omega's modern answer to the Moonwatch, because they updated the movement a little bit with it, which is something that I've been hoping they would do for quite some time. Now, granted, I kind of wished I would see something like this in kind of a more original case as an homage to the Apollo 8, but I like the modern adaptation, honestly. Their 44.25 millimeter, Jace, stop me if you disagree, wears closer to a 42 in my opinion, and I think it's because of the case design in general on this piece.
Yeah, I like all, the side of the moon, the actual case, the 44.25, I think wears pretty well. Ceramic in general in this size is kind of where you want to be. The Apollo 8 designation, very cool, kind of a special piece. I agree with you. I would have liked to have seen like meteorite subdials or something on this piece. That would have been pretty sick.
Yeah.
I think for what that piece is, it didn't really sell. So in context of the conversation we're having, didn't really sell out at boutiques, right? Some Omegas do, some don't.
Yeah.
The piece is available. I think we have, that one's pre-owned. I think we might still have one new
I
also
think,
in
I think we
inventory.
do actually.
But super cool watch for the money. My kind of pet peeve with this piece is this strap, which we won't zoom in because it's a little bit crazy, but it's got these giant holes.
You can see it from here, honestly.
Yeah, these giant holes in the strap, which don't leave you a lot of room for micro adjustment. You either live with it, and they're about a quarter of an inch away from each other. So
it really is true. If you would need to order a short or a long strap if you can't find the right fit, or just get used to it, I guess.
Or throw what I was thinking was the Alcantara from the gray side.
Oh,
on this,
yeah,
like
yep.
the gray because the dial kind of has that off gray color. It'd be cool.
It would match really nice. I think you could like kind of compare those holes to like an isofrane rubber.
Sure.
And it is like it's a chunky hole. Overall, I like the contrast stitching, everything. Black and yellow is two good colors together.
Insert popular song. Yeah, very cool piece. I actually like that watch quite a bit for, $8 or $9 grand market price.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid pickup.
I think
would probably
cheat sheet. Yeah, we have that listed just south of 9,000.
Yeah, so I would definitely probably pick that up, change the strap, maybe go with the deployant, Omega deployant once I change the strap. But cool watch.
Definitely.
And that's in the under 10 of the 4 that we have.
Yep, absolutely.
So very cool value prop. In the context of the conversation, what we're talking about is this watch is what it costs now. When all things, shit hits the fan, or the bubble pops, or whatever you want to call it, it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
And
this is even separate from a lot of the sides of the moon from Omega, because Omega did, they started off with the dark side of the moon, which in my opinion is awesome. Still to this day, I love most of the sides of the moon, contrary to popular opinion. Also the white side of the moon I love. But, they did ceramic a little bit to death, in my opinion. But I think this... I think this is going to withstand the test of time due to the limited nature of it, first and foremost. And I think mostly the color scheme and movement are going to carry it, more so than the limited edition nature.
Yeah, the movement is awesome. The dial, the fact that they went and did something different with the dial, not only texture, but also skeletonizing it a little bit out of the ordinary. And besides maybe the original Dark Side,
yeah,
that's probably my pick.
Yeah, I mean,
I've always liked the gray side better, but if you're only going to have one, there's only, as Mr. Moss always says, there's only one first. The dark side, the original one. Not that triple black one. That one, nobody likes that one.
I like it. I just wish I could read it ever in
that's what
any
everybody
scenario.
says, but
ever.
Anyhow. All right. That's watch one. You want to go low, high, or you want to go through the bottom?
Well, let's just talk about the three kind of outliers. So, let's start with the DB25. This is DB25. This is a smaller case size that De Bethune usually does. This is, I think, a 40 millimeter case. Now, there's a couple things. You can see it has a classic De Bethune case design, case structure, except due to the smaller case size, you don't get those flexing lugs that you see on the DB28s and other pieces in general. But what you do get is kind of a clean, simple, very De Bethune dress watch. And you can see the guilloche center and all. What's interesting, Jason actually is pointing this out to me. The hour hand, you can see the opposite side of the hour hand has this kind of particular half moon shape to it. Now, if you turn it around to the business end, the movement side, you can see the rotor is partially skeletonized, but still mimics that same half moon shape. And just
it's a little, calling card to, hey, flip me over and see where the magic's at. So this movement is gorgeous. I posted this before the live show on my Instagram, trying to get that rotor to go a little bit crazy. So the watch is fully wound right now because I was playing with it. But I actually feel like if you want to step away from a DB28 and you're okay going with maybe something that's off the beaten path a little bit, where, to be honest, the DB28 is already kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah.
But
out of the De Bethune beaten path.
Yeah, the flexi lugs, the way it sits on the wrist is amazing. But this piece is the perfect size for a dressier piece without the flexible lugs. If it had the flex lugs on this size case, I feel like it'd wear too small.
You're right.
But
I agree with that.
This watch is absolutely awesome.
I think, too, this really answers the call of a dress watch for De Bethune. There's people that call a lot of the DB28s and larger sports watches even
right.
for De Bethune. But this has every characteristic of a dress watch. There's no date, there's no running seconds, there's no complication. And other than the kind of, shall we call it, more contemporary case design, it really, really is a dress watch to its core.
It's stunning, too. I can tell you right now from the video and from me trying to photograph this, that it doesn't do it justice.
It really doesn't.
It's similar to, trying to get a good photo of, a nice longue movement, like a datograph, and you just can't quite get it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This piece is special. It's by far the nicest watch on the table.
A good client, a personal friend of mine, actually has this watch. And, he's a collector of Journe, Patek, GP, whatever, everything, a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And this is actually in his regular rotation, and was a little unexpected, actually, honestly, just because it is a little more on the modern end.
100% wear this.
Absolutely.
It's from this angle, the hands kind of have like a purple effect with the lights, which is kind of cool.
Well, I love purple too,
yeah.
So you want to talk about the Longa?
Yeah, sure. So the Longa is one of these pieces that, we've talked about popular variations from their line. We've talked about pieces that don't. This one, for me, is kind of in the middle. It's a little small, I would say, for most. I got fingerprints all over the dial. Yeah. So you got your grande date, double date, which is beautiful. Got the pusher for the date, which we were talking about prior to that. For those of you who've never seen, this is not anything special in terms of an annual or anything, so I don't mind advancing it past the... I did set the watch because I was playing with it, but so sub-seconds, really just a nice dressy piece, but a little bit small for what most people would want this Longue for.
Yeah, I think this is a 37 millimeter, which is, in my opinion, a really good size for kind of something that's a little dressy like this piece. But I know that a lot of collectors lately are looking 39 for dress pieces, depending.
I think 37's asking a little bit for most people because, like you mentioned, 39 super within the wheelhouse for most people. Even I like to wear anything from a 44 millimeter Panerai all the way down to like a 39 millimeter, for instance, like an AP.
Yeah.
Which wears a little bit bigger. 37, probably a stretch. I wouldn't wear this personally, but that being said, I wear bigger watches. You would wear this size.
Yeah, I have about a 7-inch wrist, give or take, so I can wear down to... I've worn a 33 millimeter dress Patek, and it didn't feel out of place. I actually like it a lot. Smaller watches I gravitate towards, and something like this would be... Yeah, a dream of a dress watch.
So the cool thing with this piece is it packs a lot of bang for the buck because, like we were talking about, it's not one of the most desirable variations of the brand. But, besides the fact that it's I don't know if I'd call that micro rotor. But,
it's kind of like a 3/4 rotor, yeah.
But relatively large, small, medium rotor. It's a schmedium. But it's a cool piece and a lot of, punch above its weight class. Got some good chop to it.
It does. I was just looking at our cheat sheet, and we have this listed under 20,000. It's 19,950. So, for a heavy hitting dress watch like this, it's not a bad price at all. You get a grand date, you get a sub-seconds, you get a white precious metal case with a really, really deep, black lacquered dial, and with longest finishing and a 3/4 rotor, it's above its weight class. It really is.
It's a really nice piece. If it was 39 millimeters, it wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
It would be gone every time we got it. But at 37 millimeters, I think there's tons of guys that can make the exception to wear it. You just got to be aware of what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because that's a piece that if you buy it on a whim to say, let me try it,
it might be a little bit jarring.
You decide to keep it for a few months, and then, you make up your mind.
I do think, though, trends are on their way down. I don't think they're going to get to, back to where they once were, but I think we'll see pieces like this being very sought after just because of the case size. I think in the future, kind of the 36 to 39 is going to be the dream size for everything that's not a sports watch. And I think even sports watches are going to kind of get to that 38 millimeter threshold a little bit more often than they do now. I'm hoping so anyway. I think pieces like this and the DB25 are going to start to be eaten up by the market, truthfully.
I think as we see technology, so similar to like the Longue, the DB25, as we see technology, driving what the micro manufacturers like Dave Bethune are doing, the actual lug placement and all of that's going to come into play. So you might actually get some 38 millimeter watches that wear like a 40.
Yeah.
Because of the architecture of the case, all of that is now being taken into account. Unlike watches from 15 or 20 years ago where it was all lugs and the watch was too tiny to wear, it might take up the same surface area, but you get a bigger dial, you get a bigger wrist presence. So.
You get just a more modern watch in general. I
would say I'm very comfortable saying that a lot of men's watches are going to be 40 millimeters soon.
Yeah, I think 40 is a really good sweet spot. And actually, to make a transition into something that's a little bit less than looked at, we'll say. Zennith Type 20, we have it here. So this is part of a 250-piece limited edition. It's a Type 20, and this one has a blue dial. This one's actually on a strap that it doesn't normally ship with, but it is a Zennith strap. It's actually a really cool piece. It wears
granulated dial.
Almost Fume-esque dial with really, really generously applied luminescence, I can say from experience. And yes, there is that faux patina that's pretty 50-50. I think it hits on this watch. I think it hits well, especially with this strap. It's kind of in a Solamente color.
The strap makes it play.
And, Zennith is actually the only brand that can have the word pilot on their dial, apparently, which is kind of cool. This represents a lot of classic Pilot's watches. You get these wire-esque lugs that are obviously an afterthought to the case. You weld them on. You have to weld them on yourself. You get the oversized onion crown and kind of this, calf leather style strap. It's very Pilot. It's very cool. It's, it's an affordable 5522 almost.
Or if that granulated dial and that new Odysseus didn't quite do it for you.
This one will do it for you.
It's a cool piece. My personal feelings on the watch is it's a little small.
Yeah.
But going to where we were saying earlier, I feel like that case specifically should be a little larger by nature because of the Pilot aspect of it.
I agree. That is the one.
My only critique of that piece, well, I guess the size is technically a critique, but my only critique is that, so you have the vintage loom, you have a vintage antique case, and the strap, like, it almost feels like they went too far with making it look old.
The case is something that I struggled with until I saw it in person, and while I still kind of go back and forth, I have settled on that I like it, and I think it just reminds me of an old, tarnished sterling silver almost.
It is, so, yeah, I'm not on the fence anymore. I like the watch. It's just too small for me.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like if it was a millimeter or two larger, some of the other Zennith Pilots, the Type 20s, are too big.
Yeah.
This one, for me, feels a little small. I'm looking for that Goldilocks,
Yeah, if they made this case in 42 millimeters, I really do think it would be a really popular watch for Zennith. And, the brand itself, they're amazing. El Primero is awesome. If you know the history with El Primero, a lot about the brand of Zennith, pretty much their claim to fame in general. But they do have a wide variety of other pieces outside of El Primero. So this is kind of one of those cool examples of that.
So is that the whiskey, or are we professionally advocating for another Type 20?
I think we're hoping for another Type 20.
All right, well, we're not quite there yet, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we're still looking for that sweet spot. This piece here is actually a very, very cool watch.
Mind the squeaky strap.
For no money. I mean, it's basically free.
It's basically free. If you were to talk to Brian Goffberg, it would be no money.
So, for those of you that don't know the brand, it's the Vogard. It's got a brand new
You can really hear that it's a brand new strap.
Deployment buckle, right? There we go. And for those of the claim to fame for this guy is this mechanism right here, which may look familiar to you because there's a very popular brand called IWC that now owns this company and bought them exclusively for this patent. So here we go.
Quick adjust time bezel.
Very cool time bezel both ways. This crown guard basically folds up. It depresses this pusher right here, which is the locking mechanism for the quick change. So when we do this, it's completely safe. And when we open it up, we're in full. So no crowns to unscrew.
Yep.
You get off the plane, you open this up, you switch it, you're good to go. But half exhibition in very much a, I would say, Hamilton khaki-esque style. But very cool. So you get some exhibition case back. Not the greatest movement that ever existed, but automatic does the job.
Automatic, GMT, quickly adjustable.
Full Swiss made.
The qualm I have with this is the lack of an independent fourth hand. So, like, the thing that the Explorer really gets to me is, of course, the independent adjustable time zone. So the 24-hour hand correlates directly to the time that's set, despite the world timing bezel, which is
cool. I want to get a real close-up on here because this is something that this watch is not known for, nor does it get credit for, but it's got a really, really deep, and it's almost hard to tell, but if you look at the date window, see how the window rounds off? It's got a really deep lacquered dial.
It's so good. You can tell that there's, multiple layers. A few layers don't do that.
So the dark, it's really, really nice. And I mean, this thing's, so when we talk about like no money, this thing's sub $3,000.
Yeah, we have it listed at $2,450.
And if you told me this watch is, I mean, it might never have been worn.
Yeah, I mean.
It's sick. So I think the IWC equivalent of this is like $9,000.
It's up there for sure. And there's something about the bezel control that, for some reason, doesn't necessarily fit IWC to me. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, it does work on this piece for me. Maybe it's just I have this idea of IWC being something different from that watch, but I can see where it does fit into their lexicon.
I mean, they took over that company for that complication.
Right.
So, like, if you are into the UTC, why wouldn't you go spend $3,000 or $2,500 on one of these? And you know what? You spend $2,500 on it, you wear it for 3 years, and it's worth $2,000.
Yeah,
$2,500 again.
So there will be a buyer for this watch. I mean, it's a cool piece in general.
It's like a Speedmaster in that regard. You buy it, you wear it, it's still worth the same money.
That's a good comparison, actually. I do think actually the next piece is. Money aside, looks alone is probably my personal favorite on the table. I absolutely adore this watch. This is
you were just thinking, well, should I own this?
I mean, I think about buying this watch every time I see it. This is Ulysse Nardin Maxi Marine diver. It's with a yellow dial and a yellow bezel. It's awesome. It's unapologetically a sports watch, and admittedly we don't have this in my favorite configuration of it, which is on the yellow strap with the UN deployant. I love UN's rubber straps, maybe mostly because they smell like vanilla when they're new, but they're also extremely subtle and supple and comfortable. And I'm a sucker for bright dials. I mean, I have four Seiko Orange Monsters, 3 of which are in orange, 2 of which are in different colors. But
you got a Doxa with that yellow?
I have a Doxa with a yellow dial. I mean, I'm a sucker for bright dials like this, especially when it's in a sports watch. And
that was cool.
UN, I think, is one of those brands that doesn't really get a ton of recognition, other than the fact that people like the Maxi Marine It's a luxury diver. It's what it is. And
so when we talk about other brands, we say like this model and that model, right? Like Omega, Seamaster, Speedmaster.
Yep.
For UN, for me, it's always the Marine diver and the Freak. Those are the two watches
Freak,
for me.
Man.
That are like what this brand. But I love the diver. I kind of like really, really want to own one. Armand knows I've talked about. There's a special edition one that has a camouflage dial.
Yeah.
There's actually two variations with the camouflage dial. There's one with a flat dial that's printed, and there's one with like an actual applied camouflage. That's the one I want. I could have owned one a couple years ago and kicked myself all the time for not doing it. This thing screams Armand.
Yeah.
That yellow dial
another one.
is totally you. The only... And I'm going to say the only problem with that watch for me has always been how thick the bracelet is.
It is a chunky bracelet.
It's a bit chunky, but that's the style of the watch too. It's supposed to be a little bit like ostentatious.
It is. And you know, to compare the bracelet, it's thicker than that of oh geez, it feels to me like
easily twice as thick as a Submariner bracelet.
It's thicker than a sub bracelet for sure. It's a chunky bracelet, which is why I prefer it on the strap. And I mean, it's more ostentatious on the strap.
It is. Yeah.
You know, it's just cool. I mean, it's fun. It's not dreadfully breaking the bank really. What do we have this listed at? Yeah, $49.50. So I mean, it's a really cool piece to get into a weird luxury diver of.
You can also tell that this dive extension is from 10 years ago.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
designed because it's like who in their right mind needs a 40 millimeter dive extension. But
something like that though, like I see this as like a labor of love for a watch collector. Like you have to love this piece to own it, and it's not something that you buy for anything other than the fact that it's fun and it's cool and it's quirky. That's yeah. I mean, I could go on for hours about stuff like this. I
cool.
love.
There is no attention, then like no loss of attention to detail for you, and they go like above and beyond and putting a lot of stuff on the watch. You got their anchors on both sides of the bracelet. You got the full list on the case back. They always do their little badge on the side of the case. Like there's a lot of
which I've come around to. I used to hate the badge.
I mean, but when you start looking at it, it's a full screws bracelet, which is nice. Could have some micro adjustment in it, but honestly, like
the bracelet's a little yet to be desired.
The rubber is cool, but with those double badges in the rubber, you're right. It's a little extra on the bracelet, on the rubber. But still a cool piece. You should definitely get it, and then just get the bright orange yellow strap and wear it with that.
I mean, I basically need it, honestly. I should just trade my collection.
Talking about another watch that you said that you need.
Which one?
You just picked up.
So, yeah, absolutely. This is a really cool piece. I mean, Hublot, I think I've brought my Hublot on the show before. I'm a Hublot apologist. I like a lot of what Hublot has to offer.
The dial is where it's at.
The dial on this piece is very cool. Do you want to go into that one a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So this is the Bertolucci piece. So it's full, obviously, rose gold case, right? Very nice. The dial itself is leather as well, which is
a
stunning.
Cool thing.
You can't even, you see they embossed Swiss made at the bottom. They embossed automatic across the leather, as well as the markers. All the loom plots, well, not loom plots, but all the hour markers are darkened, same as all the, so it really does have some depth even for being leather. But when the sun hits it and the lights hit it, like you're seeing in the studio, the grain in the leather really comes to life. So for me, the dial is where it's at on this piece.
Yeah.
That small piece of leather makes it all worth it. I could take it or leave it on the rose gold case. The strap itself, also kind of an important part on this watch. I could take it or leave it. It's cool.
Yeah.
You got the right pair of shoes for it, great.
I mean, I almost would prefer this watch in steel, honestly, just because I don't wear a lot of brown. I kind of well, you see me every day. I wear a lot of black. So I would almost prefer this in a steel case because I think it would just be easier to wear in general. But, you really can't argue. If you have the skin tone for rose gold, this is a cool watch.
It's cool. You say you have to apologize for Hublot. Hublot is a brand that I respect because they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. They do what they want to do. They make watches. They make a ton of watches. They sell a ton of watches. They are cool with being the party brand. They're cool with being the guys on South Street, in South Beach. They don't need to be AP. There are a lot of pieces they do. Some questionable decisions like the Tutti Fruttis and all those pieces, but there are home run pieces like this, like the U.S. Declaration piece.
Yeah, that's a cool watch.
There's watches that I like a lot.
Honestly, the 42 millimeter Spirit of Big Bang, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
the Classic Fusion is where it's at.
It's a rich poor man's Richard Mille, but I do like it, and the Classic Fusion is a great line for sure.
I just sold the West Coast piece, the one with the white ceramic bezel.
Oh, that watch is awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic watch.
Yeah, that watch
For
is
the money.
very cool.
Awesome.
And you know, it's big, but it's purposefully big, and it kind of fits into this really particular category. It's a purposefully out there watch. It's meant for you to see it.
It's got the artwork on the case back,
Yep.
graffiti.
Yep.
Very edgy, but it's kind of at the same time doesn't take itself too seriously, which is what Hublot does really well.
And it is. That's actually a really good point. I think Hublot gets a lot of flack for being themselves, but at the end of the day, they are unapologetically themselves, and I do love that about them. And actually, to transition a bit, this is a brand that's very, very under the radar, very much an underdog brand that I've come around to actually like a lot. There's a few pieces that I could point out in Gerard Parados' collection that are just fantastic. This is one of them. So this is a split-second Fondriant. I butchered that name. Oh, I'm going to get crucified.
There's whiskey at play here.
This is a split-second Fondriant. And what that means, so this is yellow gold case, split-second chronograph with the Fondriant. You can see, I'm just going to go ahead and split it there. Go. This is an awesome watch. I mean, it's an in-house movement. It shows a lot of prowess in watchmaking in general. And you can see one of my favorite things is the reset of the Fondriant, how it kind of takes steps in the right direction. It's very cool. Deep black dial. You have the Arabic numerals. Not my favorite strap. We were talking about this a bit. It's a little bit yet to be desired, but you put it on something that's maybe a little weirder, and it's this is kind of a cool, sporty, racy watch. And of course, we have a beautiful display case back to show that amazing movement. What do you think, Jace?
So there is no movement inside of it. It's all run. There's a little hamster on the inside.
You do have the Scuderia Ferrari, the Ferrari emblem and everything.
Yeah. So forgive the Ferrari emblem. But
Yeah.
The rest of the watch is pretty awesome. Actually, it
Ferrari
is
will put
an
their name on
amazing
anything.
size for what it is. A lot of times when you go look back on some of these really, really awesome GPs, they're too big.
Yeah.
So for this piece, I think, following the conversation earlier with some of the sizing down, I still think this plays.
Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic movement, very good value prop for what it is. Little expensive in total, but if you take into consideration, you're getting a solid gold. With that movement,
It's just north of 20, which with this movement in mind, it's a split-second Fondriant. You look at what it offers, and the value is there.
that movement adds $4,000 to any watch.
I completely agree. At least I mean,
So it doesn't matter what it is. And then rose gold case, legendary GP. It's a cool piece. That watch, I'll be honest, at 20-ish, kind of not doing it for me. If that watch was 15, no brainer. All day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the brand that
You
we
gotta
hear
love it,
that
that's the thing.
you do have to love it, but it's just the brand that we hear that skews us. There's a Gerard Parados in white ceramic, and I know I mentioned my love for the white side of the moon, but there's a GP in white ceramic that's a World Timer chrono in 43 millimeters, and it represents so much bang for your buck. I think we had it pre-owned for right around 10 to 15,000 depending, but it's an in-house world timing chronograph in a white ceramic case with water resistancy. It sounds strange to come from a brand like GP, but it's awesome.
I mean, we've talked about it before. GP is a brand that really just put stuff out ahead of its time, and was looked at oddly when it came out, and oddly now because the brand sadly doesn't have but the Oracle BMW pieces, people hate those watches. I think they're excellent value pickups.
Well, the Laureato
The color
now,
composition's pretty cool. They're cool watches.
the Laureato now is even a really good value proposition. What with the
That's a pretty watch.
the Royal Oak being unattainable for some people, I think Laureato on the secondary market is going to be one of those pieces that is wanted. And honestly, seeing it in the metal, I was recently in Geneva, and I did get to see a few of them in the metal, and it's awesome. It's really cool, and they're wearable case sizes. They get bit off on a lot for looking like AP or looking like the riding the Steel Sports Watch wave, but at the end of the day, they still are really cool pieces, and they have their own place in the market, which at a certain level is unarguable, honestly.
And honestly, they got in before everybody else got in, so there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
That piece has been out for a few years, and they got in before everybody. With the, we talked about the Chopard, right? The American Screaming Eagle Death Baton thing, whatever it's called.
Doesn't do it for me.
I actually saw a photo of it live on somebody's wrist, and it didn't look as bad as the publicity photos.
I think that's the thing. You really do need to get that stuff in hand, because from photos, well, not to harp too much on this, but the new Bell & Ross as well, the BR05. We talked about that last time we were together, actually. That's one that, in my opinion,
love the brand, hate that one.
I love the brand too. I have one myself, but in my opinion, misses the mark in person. Whereas the Laureato hits the nail on the head in person, feels great. You feel the value, you feel the money that you're spending on it. Whereas some pieces don't necessarily pull that off.
There's some disconnects on that piece, but we've talked about it to death. But anyhow. That's 8 watches.
Yeah.
9, 10 watches.
8 watches
in
under 10,000, over 10,000. And, it's something to keep an eye on. One thing that I tell people a lot is complications. So, like, we've talked about Roger Dubuis. We didn't really have any cool Roger Dubuis to show anything, but Roger Dubuis complications are going to be cool and collectible, mark my words.
I think so. So, we're going to answer a couple questions going through the chat. While we do that, obviously we're sipping on some whiskey. There was a question here. Sam, always in the chat, so I acknowledge you there, sir. By the way, Jason, Scotch and whiskey cannot be Japanese by law. Scotch has to be distilled in Scotland.
He's not wrong.
You're not wrong. However, this particular whiskey, which is whiskey, not Scotch, is fermented in used Scotch barrels.
Interesting.
So there's a complexity to it, which you don't get in a lot of Japanese whiskeys. So it is distilled in reused Scotch barrels. So technically it's not Scotch, but it does have kind of has a Scotchy note to the end of it. I will say though, if you guys do not, I don't know if you're into whiskey or whatnot. I have been for the last 2 or 3 years and really gotten into it. I know Armand likes a good whiskey.
I fancy myself a drinker.
Japanese stuff is actually, pretty damn good.
It really is. If you can get into...
If open a bottle of Hibiki and try it for a $60 bottle, it's fantastic.
If you can find a Hibiki 12, which they have kind of dried up on the market, it's really good whiskey. Another different client and friend of mine bought me a bottle, and it's amazing. I went through it all too fast.
Yeah, so like Hibiki's my way, like my desk bottle way now. Like instead of getting a bottle of Jameson or something like that for the same kind of money or relatively the same, Hibiki's pretty good stuff. And it's like a 27 blend, like faceted. It's really good. But anyhow, so yeah, I don't know. It's always been kind of interesting to me. You see like whiskey, watches, cars, stuff like that.
There's always this blend of things that are call it a little old timey.
It's weird how this fits in so well.
It does. even you go to any type of motoring events. I know Jason and I are both into cars and motorcycles. Anything you might want to kind of think about, but the two coincide heavily in pretty much every form of media in the watch world. The two coincide, and I think with cars in particular, I think it's because of the timing aspect and just what was done in the past in terms of timekeeping with the brands and cars and racing. And
so for me, there's that correlation. For me, it's not so much about timekeeping. For me, the correlation is the mechanical aspect of it.
I agree.
So there's a direct. I have always been fascinated with like architecture, cross sections. Cross section drawings are freaking awesome. Yeah. But when it comes to watchmaking, like the architecture of the movement, all the little pieces, all that stuff is really what does it. The engineering feat of making something, it's like making an engine burn so hot for so long. Now think about that thing, gas pedal down for the rest of its life, and it never stops. Well, that's a watch movement.
That's a watch, yeah.
So like it's even crazier to think, but it doesn't have to propel 3,000 pounds down the road, but it does have to drive those two little hands 24/7. So for me, it's always been like the engineering feat behind the movement. But yeah, it's just there's a complexity. It's why I knives, guns, whatever you want to, anything Mechanical kind of does it for me, and I don't know. I just always thought it was pretty cool how it relates, and I saw someone make a comment in here about how whiskey fits so well into watches.
And it really does. You know, there's whiskey and watch events in, every major city in the United States and probably other countries as well. But it fits in well because it's something that it takes time to create, and it takes expertise, and it takes just careful measurement in general. I think the mechanical aspect even translates almost into, fine liquor.
This is good. So if we do a full Grand Seiko show, then we'll bring the Hibiki in.
Yeah.
It'll
I would
play
love to
well.
do a full Grand Seiko show. I mean, you know how I feel about the brand.
Dude, we could bring 30 watches.
Yeah, for another time, but
for two guys that love Seiko and have a lot of Seikos and love Grand Seiko and don't have any Grand Seikos, we should definitely change that.
We should change that, actually.
But that's it. 2 of 2. Armand and I are going to get matching Grand Seikos. Custom green Fume dials.
Custom olive drab green Fume.
Yeah. There you go. All right, guys. Hey, listen, if you have... we're not quite done here, so if you have a couple questions, why don't you fire them off in the chat and I'll read them off.
Yeah, I don't have a laptop in front of me, but I'll count on Jason to have a good one. There's been a lot of there's always a lot of activity moving on the comments. I can never keep track of it.
Yeah, so like I have a hard time reading as they go up, but you gotta keep your eye on it. These guys also, what I love about the chat is like the entire conversation has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
These guys, I mean, if you guys don't have a private chat, all of the guys in the chat box
need to get on board with it.
Need to create your own private chat because I feel like you guys would be best friends for life.
In our office, we have like 4 or 5 group chats that are open constantly, whether it's in Slack or WhatsApp. But it's we have a good time talking about watches. We'll say.
Well, yeah. So I mentioned in the episode with Mike last week about the Lange sport piece is that we all woke up to 30 messages in that group chat. They're all like. I don't care if you were ready to wake up or not. The phones were ding.
It was digging.
Ding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. All right,
that's one I'll be curious about moving forward.
Perfect segue here. Geezer tagged me in a question. Thank you. That makes it easier to find. Predictions on resale secondary market value for the Lange Odysseus.
I think it's going to do well. I really do. I think as much as I don't care for it, it just misses the mark for me for some reason. I think it misses the mark for a lot of people. But I do think resale will be good for it. I think there will be kind of those core Lange fans, those people who strive for something different, and quite frankly, a lot of people that are sick of the steel sports bubble in general. And I can't say that I blame them. I mean, it's tough to be interested in Rolex or Patek sports models right now. It's
one of the, I guess, takeaways from the last episode was us bashing on the watch for some reason. Like, I didn't see it that way. I am hesitant about what the watch stands for.
Gotta see it.
I need to see it in person. We always have to, right? Doesn't matter what I harbor for it now. If I like it in person, I like it in person. So I'm more kind of reserved. I will say I am leaning a little bit more towards that. I don't like it right now.
I am too.
But let it change my mind. Same thing with the BR05 when that came out. Not that they're anywhere in the same value range
or ballpark.
But same thing. I was like, listen, I don't really like the watch, but I got to see one in person. So value aside, like secondary market, it's going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
I would say the first 6 months to 12 months, it's probably going to sell, 20% at least over retail.
Yeah.
So it'll do pretty well. What'll happen is it's going to depend on how many they make, how many they ship, and what people's first impressions in getting it in the wrist.
And I think so far the first impressions haven't been great, but I'm waiting for more to kind of hit the market in general before I make my own observation. What I do like about it is the fact that and not only them, but a lot of brands are taking an easy link adjust very seriously, which is cool. Adjusting links kind of sucks with watches. It's difficult to do. You need a set of tools. If you
have me, and then you need a Swiss Army knife.
If you've never done it before, I mean, me and Jason basically size every watch that goes out of our trading floor. If it's not him, it's me, and vice versa. And if you don't have a tool or the know-how, it's a pain to size a watch, you know? And even if you do have a tool and the know-how, certain watches are just brutal to size.
Shout out to the Breitling Navitimer.
and any Breitling on a bracelet can have the potential of being difficult.
But if you like watches and you want to invest in a small tool set, sizing your own watches can be very rewarding.
And you just have to do it a couple times to get comfortable with it.
Like, if you can change brakes on your car and you can do anything, like, relatively mechanical, then sizing watch is not a problem.
Yeah, but you want to use a different, different type of force if you're working on
Different
brakes
set
or
of-
watches. Different set of skills, motor
And
skills.
tools.
And
Should
tools.
not be using 10mm wrenches on. But, no, I like setting watches, but sizing watches, to me, is kind of like a little puzzle, which is fun.
Yeah. The worst one ever is the Cartier. I'm gonna butcher the name. I forget the name of the Cartier, but there's a particular Cartier that I think ends with Donna. Gosh, man, egg on my face right there. But it's a really particular Cartier with a really particular bracelet, and it is the biggest nightmare to size that I think I've ever dealt with ever. You take one side out and the bracelet falls to pieces. It's horrible.
I'm looking it up. The LaDonna?
It is the little Donna. Yeah.
All right, so
Yep.
La is the, so you were close.
Close enough. But
yeah, it's like a giant chain link piece of something. Anyways, so let's see here. We're scrolling through.
Dead air.
Swiss Army, Victorinox Swiss Army Field Force, brand new model. Every watch person needs one.
Okay.
I can't say that I like Swiss Army.
I like Swiss Army too.
So long as it's the original Victorinox and not like Swiss Wenger. But that's because I'm a knife guy. So
Yeah.
Best EDC knife under $200.
Something made by Kershaw, I'm sure.
Yeah. I would say look at ZT, which is a derivative of Kershaw.
Subsidiary.
Benchmade's pretty good. Spyderco obviously does some really good stuff, but that's another thing that we have in common, knives.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. And I think that actually translates pretty well to the watch community.
Yeah. Again, design. Let's see here. A lot of people are helping you out with the LaDonna.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. At least somebody knows my pain. But I'll tell you what, you can't argue with Rolex's sizing. What they use for sizing, it's just screws into cases, and they're durable screws. They don't strip. I know Omega and Grand Seiko uses end screws with a post that kind of goes through directly into all three of the links. That's a good system too. It's just kind of a pain to size just because there are two screws that are super small. So I don't mind sizing Omega or Grand Seikos, but Rolex is unfortunately the one that is the easiest and kind of just the most conducive to both being durable, long-lasting, and easy.
A couple of people asking for some wrist checks, which we did in the beginning of the video, but I am wearing a non-date sub, ceramic generation.
Omega Seamaster Chrono, KO 2907, 321.
Anyways, knife check, Ahmad. All right, that's cool. I was playing with this before the show. So.
Yeah.
This piece is Clyde Chandler. It's a front flipper. It's kind of a cool mechanism. So instead of a flipper here, the front of the blade is knurled, so you can do that and roll it around. Sheep flip blade. Obviously, you can tell I carry it, but just kind of a plain titanium. And the knife Armand is carrying is a big influence for this custom knife maker in its production version, but that is one of the newer slip joint versions of the
Chris Reeve
really
and
popular
Impinda?
Chris Reeve, the Impinda, which is a slip joint, no lock.
No lock, just kind of a classic. I have another Chris Reeve. What is that?
Sebenza 21.
Of course,
Large
Sebenza,
Sebenza
yeah.
21.
Which I actually bought from Jason. Love Chris Reeve. Great manufacturer in general.
So Clyde is actually South African, so is Chris. And, I mean, the amount of First of all, pretty much any knife maker, but any South African knife maker will tell you that Chris Reeves is like a walking legend.
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of the South African knife makers have that style aesthetic, plain tie, very, very utilitarian.
It's cool. It's like something that you look at and it looks and feels like it's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been pretty awesome, but we're going
Going over.
We're going 50 minutes strong. So I think, even though the chat's going with it, maybe we should do some more knife stuff because the chat's down with it right
Well, there
now.
was that one guy that didn't like it, right?
Yeah, but that guy's gone because we have knives and he doesn't. So anyhow, I think this was good. Maybe it might be done. I guess we call it a show. We are 90. First of all, contact info. Armand's Instagram. We pull that up.
It's me, Armand.
It's me, Armand, which is the greatest Instagram name that ever existed. Mine, a little less great, Evo_watches. You can follow both of us. You can bother us. You can ask us watch questions.
Yeah, I usually do respond sometimes,
Knife
actually.
questions, car questions, whiskey questions.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are 93,000 subscribers strong.
We got to
shoot
make it
for
to 100,
100.
man. Got to get to 100.
If you are the 100,000th subscriber, we will
I'll buy you a
send
drink if you come to Philly.
We will send you this empty bottle, which no longer has any whiskey in it. But anyways, all right, guys. Special Monday night show. I appreciate you guys
Thanks for
logging
tuning
in,
in,
watching the whole show, taking your time to participate in the conversation, and hit us up. Thanks.